Talk about the extraordinary damage that this culture of disinformation and echo chambers that repeat the lies have done, and how this new team is poised to take that on.
Well, look, it's the big issue in American politics that people will believe things that are just not true. And it's a challenge, as you said. People may not take this vaccine. You lead by example, and then you try to act through policy. And in terms of leading by example, when you sit down to work on an inauguration speech, and I've had to work on two with President Obama, what you choose to focus on sends a message about the kind of behavior you want to model as president. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Joe Biden went out of his way to address the fact that lies are essentially incompatible with democracy, that you cannot have democracy when huge swaths of the population are led to believe things that are just not true and led to hate one another instead of helping one another. So I think Joe Biden repeating that message, a White House that is going to start today, I think briefing probably very aggressively to show here are your public officials standing up and telling you the truth, telling you facts, bringing you the doctors, bringing you the experts to brief you on COVID. That's part of it. But then I think from a policy perspective, Nicole, there are big questions about the future of social media in this country.
Yeah.
Whether or not the government has to step in and regulate these platforms so that it's not left to the CEO of Twitter to make a decision to kick President Trump off a couple weeks before his term ends and after the Democrats have won back control of government, but rather can government work with these tech companies to determine how they can at least slow the spread of this poisonous disinformation. And then the last piece, Nicole, is one that you've thought a lot about, I know, too, which is, can the Republican Party finally stand up and tell their people the truth? And this is what Mitt Romney said so powerfully the night of January 6th, which is leadership is telling people the truth. And if we get enough Republicans who are willing to do that, I think the combination of what Joe Biden can do, what can be done through policy, what can be done with tech companies, and hopefully what at least a somewhat more responsible Republican Party can do, can begin to drain the toxicity out of our democracy.
When two former West Wing staffers talk, we always talk in lists. You gave me three things I want to respond to. Let me start with your last point about Republicans telling the truth. It would be my policy that a Republican must assert the truth before they're allowed to share any other views. And Lindsey Graham, I understand, appeared somewhere today and refused to really go far enough in beating down the lie. I want to read you something Tom Friedman wrote, though, about social media companies. He writes this: Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg have to surprise us by once and for all stopping the elevation for profit of news that divides and enrages over more authoritative, even-handed news sources. Why? That does not seem out of reach. If we can protect against counterfeit dollar bills, we should be able to protect against fake news that we now know has the potential to kill people, as it did 2 weeks ago.
Yes. And look, the reality is Facebook does have a model where they profit from the spread of disinformation. That's how they've written their algorithm. That's how they disseminate information on their platforms. But look, I think what Joe Biden reminds us, inaugurations are big days. He showed us the better story of America on that platform today, in the performances, in the representation, in the poetry, and in his own words. And the reality is these social media companies, they're American companies, and they have a determination. Are they going to allow the darker currents of American society to spread unchecked on their platforms? Or do they want to be a part of the type of story that Joe Biden was telling today? A country that is great because we look out for one another, a country that is great because we celebrate our differences instead of being sent into social media bubbles where we stew about them and hate the other side. And so I think Joe Biden's appeal today out of the gate sets a tone for presidency that says, look, we've been through so much. We've just been through a nightmare of 4 years. 4 years that represented, I think, the darkest aspects of the American story. All of us have a responsibility now, starting from the presidency, starting from the White House, but to those social media companies, to Facebook, and to all of us as citizens, to realize, to wake up to just how close we came to losing it all. We saw on January 6th how close we came to losing this precious democracy that Joe Biden now declared today has prevailed. But for that to continue to be the course, we need everybody to step up here, and that includes social media. And if they won't, that means that government's going to have to step in as well.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.